Welcome everyone to the Almost Cancelled TV News Podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always in a terrific mood because he's nice and comfortable and chilly is Connor.
Kill me now. It's so warm.
It's midnight and it's over 30 degrees in Connorland.
And humid.
I'm at 2% humidity.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm living life right now.
I have had to put clothes on just for this. I'm uncomfortable.
I can tell you that everyone watching this video is thankful of that fact, Connor.
I'm not sure that's true.
It's a TV news podcast. We get together, we talk about pilots, show orders, renewals, cancellations, premiere dates, all that sort of good stuff. That tends to fall into most of those categories. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we'll get into it. I didn't watch anything random this week. I've been watching movies this week rather than TV, so I don't have any TV anecdotes to drop at you at the start.
I've been watching Sandman.
Oh yeah, that started.
Yeah, I watched the first, I think, 4 episodes so far. Could have been just like, watching one a night. It's pretty good. It's
I have heard
faithful in all the right places, but it obviously has some changes, but not anything that's bad.
Yeah, I've heard mostly fans seem to be quite happy with it. It's mostly very positive buzz. The only critique that I've seen levied at it is there's maybe a bit too much reliance on green screens rather than sets for a lot of locations.
That's probably fair, especially, but I think a lot of that is stuff that's in like The Dreaming, right, where it's unrealistic sets. So it would be a lot of work to build. It's not impossible, but obviously expensive.
Yeah, I guess the argument is, like, do you tone it down so it's something you can build at a reasonable price? So it works on TV. Because I think at some level I would prefer it to look tactile instead of all green screened. But I mean, I haven't watched it. I've just heard this. But
no, that's definitely a fair critique. It's more just, that's the choice they made, right?
Yeah. But I've seen enough other things with unnecessary green screen to weigh in. So yeah. So there you go. Well,
I'll say like the effects aren't bad though. Like, obviously it's not real sets, and you can kind of mostly usually tell that in any production, not specifically this, just across the board.
Sure.
You can usually feel that, but it's no worse than any other case that does it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's worth mentioning the penultimate episode of Better Call Saul review had just went out. Well, at the time we record, we're recording this Thursday night, by the way. So if any huge news drops on Friday, that'll be in next week's show. Just FYI. Yeah, penultimate episode and penultimate review, I suppose, as well. That's also a correct statement of Better Call Saul is out, so you can check that out and go and have a look. See,
it's meant we've had to start planning what we're going to do next.
We do. We have an idea of sort of replacing that Better Call slot with something else. Not like a currently airing show. Well, technically currently airing, but not the current season that's airing. We're going to try a show out. We'll see it. We'll do an episode, and if we feel up to committing to, say, the first season, we'll maybe do the first season, and we'll see how we feel at the end if we want to continue past that. But we won't say what it is quite yet, but we have made some choices, and you'll find out more about that soon. Hopefully that'll be going up early on Patreon. Probably not too long.
Next week after Saul?
Yeah, next weekend, yeah, probably. So assuming all goes to plan, next weekend it'll be up early on Patreon, and the following week for the publics.
Yeah, should be, again, more or less around the same time as next week's news episode, give or take.
Yeah. So yeah, always worth mentioning, if you do want to support all the content, including these news episodes, and keep them coming forever, go to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and you can get some bonuses and whatnot. Or hit the super thanks button down below. I did some shilling at the start for a change, because I know a lot of them turn it off when they realise I'm about to do the outro at the end. So I mean, I
get it. One, I tune out of listening to you when you do it, and two, despite this being in this scenario and being on this side of it, I still do it on other people's videos, even people who I like. And obviously, there's some I support and put my money to, but there's a lot that I don't, beyond just having YouTube Premium. Is that what they call it now? Premium?
Yeah.
Beyond just having that on, but I stop listening or just click off when it gets to that last 30 seconds, minute.
Yeah, which
I get it.
I'm not saying you have to feel guilty if you don't, but if you are a patron, you can not listen to the last couple of minutes guilt free. But sometimes you might get a zinger from us right at the very end.
You miss that spicy banter that people are here for.
So sometimes it's a really funny, not every time obviously, but sometimes there'll be a funny last second joke that I'm always sad that probably half the audience didn't get to hear because they've turned it off when the
Pressure's
outro
on now
started.
this week.
Aye, on
They're
you.
all gonna stay. They're all gonna stay waiting for this last second joke. So one of us better deliver.
Yes, you better deliver, Connor.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'll get thinking now.
All right, let's get into it then. We don't have a lot of renewals and cancellations. In fact, we only have one renewal, I think. So it's a bit light on those this week. But hey, that's only so many shows. Can't be renewing and cancelling things every week.
It's not the season, I guess.
Yeah. Physical, which is a dark comedy on Apple TV Plus, has been renewed for a third season.
All right. I've never heard of it, but sure.
Stars Rose Byrne, revolves around Sheila, a woman in the early 1980s who is struggling with bulimia, but begins to ascend from housewife to aerobics video star in the face of her husband's run for local political office in San Diego.
Sounds wild. That sounded really sarcastic, but that could be actually just wild as a comedy.
It could be. I think what's impressive is that Rose Byrne's a relatively, she's a name. I know who she is, and it's just kind of weird that I didn't even know this existed. Like, even when I'm on Apple TV and I'm just going to watch Severance, like, why have I not seen like a little box that's telling me to go watch it?
Presumably, the algorithm doesn't think you care about this one.
But he's pushing C at me, and C's terrible.
Yeah, but is it though?
You watched the pilot as well.
No, I did. It was terrible. I just played devil's advocate to Apple's algorithm.
Yeah.
For some reason.
We got a premiere date for the Starz Dangerous Liaisons adaptation, which is coming. So yeah, it will premiere on the 6th of November. So remember the 5th of November, then add one. And it's 8 episodes. So
okay,
there you go. There's also a teaser out. I didn't make us watch it because I didn't think we'd care or have anything to say about it. But
not unless it was really wild as a teaser.
Yeah, really different to what we might think in our heads. Dangerous Liaisons maybe. But I see those dresses and the big wigs, and I'm like, yep, I don't think it's for me.
Shocking.
I don't think it's for me. Yeah, the new show we're doing is not Downton Abbey. I'll just dispel those rumors right now. I feel like they're already bubbling.
Yeah, but shockingly not as far away from it as other people might guess.
Is there a Downton Abbey spin-off that I agreed to do? I don't think I did.
I think the spin-offs are all movies.
Oh. Well, good for us.
Yeah.
All right, so some other things here then. First up, some Disney Plus news. Some price changes and also a new tier. Although it's worth mentioning, this new ad-supported tier is the price that the current regular tier is, and to keep without ads, you're going to have to go up to the new Disney Plus Premium, which is going to be $10.99 in US dollars a month. And with this, I'm not going to list them all out because there's a lot of different permutations of this, but it also means that the Disney bundle, which is Disney, Hulu, and ESPN, is going up a little bit in price, and Hulu's going up a little bit in price. They're all going up a little bit in price. But $3 is a pretty steep increase in one go.
It is. Honestly, for me, because I have Disney Plus. I don't know if you do or not.
On and off again.
Yeah. There tends to be enough on there that between me and Paige that it's worth just having. Depending on how egregious the ads are, I might just if it's just like one ad before you start watching a movie, I'll probably just stick with the ad tier because even Amazon Prime occasionally does that. It'll play like a short 30-second ad for one of their other shows.
Yeah, you can usually skip it though. Like they usually give you the option to skip it.
You usually can, but not always, interestingly.
Yeah, it's just I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, the idea of having a cheap version with ads is interesting and potentially good for a lot of people who maybe do want access to the content but can't afford to have the full price.
I feel like it should be cheaper than this.
It should be cheaper than this, and the fact that it's the same price that it currently is without the ads, and this is just like, oh, now it's extra to get no ads feels a bit more insulting.
I feel like if they'd just dropped it by $1 and gone to $9.99, say $10.99 for the premium, it probably would have felt a lot less insulting.
Mm.
Like it's still a price increase for most people who are going to want to stay on, the plan they're on now. But yeah, it's a bit insulting to just be like, well, you just got to have ads now and
because
pay more.
Like, to play a little devil's advocate, I do think Disney Plus's like streaming quality in 4K is quite good. And if I'm right, 4K might be limited to the premium service now.
Oh, really?
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
That's what Netflix does.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then I'm basically forced to pay for the premium, which kind of sucks because I would be willing to just go with the ads.
I saw someone say something that implied that. I'm scanning this article. I'm not seeing any evidence right now.
I wonder if that was someone speculating.
Yeah, maybe.
Like Netflix do that. But
yeah. But yeah, the quality they have at 4K is very good. It is the closest out of any streaming service to Apple's own quality. Specifically Apple on an Apple TV. Because they do have different bit rates if you don't have an Apple TV, because they're a bit scummy that way. But Disney Plus is the closest. It absolutely is. It is better quality than Netflix. It's better quality than Amazon. It's better quality than all these things, and it was cheaper than all these things. I think the flip side of it though is while Disney is this huge brand, and obviously the things they do have very widespread appeal. Fundamentally, for most people, it's the Star Wars or Marvel. It's assuming you don't have kids, I suppose, and there's a lot of kids stuff, but it's Star Wars or Marvel content, really, is what you're there for. Maybe both. But
probably, yeah. I think it's worth knowing as well that it's a very different case internationally versus in the US with Disney Plus.
Yeah, because you get all the Hulu stuff included, pretty much.
Yeah, like for example, Prey, outside the US, is a Disney Plus release.
Yeah, a lot of FX shows are starting to go straight to Disney Plus internationally.
Which makes it.
It's definitely better. Like I think Disney Plus International is better than the US version, just because. I mean, obviously Hulu has a lot of extra movies and stuff that Disney Plus doesn't have elsewhere, but all of that extra original content, and FX make good stuff. Not everything they make, but they do tend to strive to make good stuff. So
yeah, of course.
And Hulu originals as well. So
I think we do pay extra compared to the US for that privilege, because I think it's like £7.99 here, as well as $7.99.
You say that, but a lot of things don't even bother changing the.
They don't anymore, but it's definitely still cheaper than having Disney Plus and Hulu.
As someone who mostly gets paid in dollars, trust me, I've noticed the exchange rate.
I know.
The exchange rate's not what it used to be.
It is not.
So I do expect that the international price will probably just be the same figures, just with the different.
I would expect so.
Yeah, currency slapped on the front.
I'm pretty sure this is coming in December, right?
I don't it was November, December, yeah, something like that.
I feel like I read like December 8th or something earlier on.
December 8th.
I happened to see this article.
Yeah, it's 8th of December. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's. I think we always expected gradual increases, but I think I expected $1 and then another year's time another $1. I didn't expect
what Netflix did.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting 3 in one go, and it's like, okay, you've had this grace period of a couple of years or whatever it's been since it started of this fairly reasonable price.
I think it will be 2 years in November.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 full years, at least for the US.
2 or 3. When must be 2, right?
2, I guess 2. Yeah. So I don't think it's unreasonable the price is going up, but I do think it does feel like a little bit steep. And I think for me, it's good. It's a good thing that it has those FX and Hulu original things going straight to it. When there's the Alien show, when there's things like that. I mean, that's a while away yet, but like,
it'll be on there for us. I just tell you, it will be 3 years in November.
Oh, 3 years. Okay, fair enough. Time flies. So I do think it's not completely unjustified. I do think that the actual increase feels quite steep, and maybe it's just inflation is not great right now. Like there's a lot of things right now that are going up in price.
And I did see an article the other day that in the UK with how many households are cutting. There were reference specifically Netflix and Amazon, like Amazon Prime, kind of cutting those subscriptions out with the cost of living going up for everything, and it was a pretty significant number. So I have to imagine, okay, if this sees a that's that could be what, like almost a 20% increase, something like that, in its price this year.
Yeah, so around that, yeah.
Yeah, that's not nothing. If people are already on the edge of, oh, should I keep it, should I not?
I think this just promotes the idea of two things: password sharing, but also rotation. Like, this promotes furthermore the idea that you'll just have one service a month and you'll just rotate through them depending on which one's built up a little bit of content you want to watch. Or if there's something you're really excited about that you want to be there day one for, you'll just rotate through whatever ones, and that's just how you keep going.
Yeah, I think Disney are banking on mostly the Marvel shows because they're pretty much continuous at this point.
Yeah.
Like, they pretty much run one into the next. They're banking on people wanting those every week. Like, they want their Marvel fix every week of the year, and I think there's a lot of people out there who will pay, $10.99 to have that every week of the year.
Yeah, I do think though anyone who isn't that passionate about Star Wars or Marvel, and believe it or not, I do think there's a lot of people who feel that way.
There are dozens of you.
Very good. I think Disney Plus isn't as exciting a proposition, and even people who like those things, like, not everyone's loved what the shows have been for both those brands. Even if you liked maybe one or two of them, you've not liked all of them. There's definitely been very mixed receptions to a lot of them, and some of it's just as broad as, when I started Miss Marvel, one of the first things I said about the first two episodes was that it's the first Disney Plus show I've watched that actually feels like a TV show, and I mean that in all the best ways possible. And that's a complaint I've levied at every other one, is that they just feel like overlong padded movies split up into chunks. So yeah, it's
It'll be really interesting to see some subscriber numbers this time next year.
Because
the rate of up or down.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, if these companies, these streaming services, are seeing like big declines over the next year because they're all getting more expensive, the cost of living is getting more expensive everywhere. Like, what do they do when they realize, shit, like people just simply can't afford to have our services anymore?
I don't know if we actually. I don't know if I mentioned it, because you obviously this has no relevance to you personally, because you would never use the service.
Crunchyroll. That's just a guess.
Crunchyroll dropped its price this month.
Oh.
It went down from, I think, $7.99 to $4.99 a month, and mostly worldwide. Respective prices adjusted, but more or less worldwide, it dropped its prices by a reasonable amount. I think part of that is like they acquired Funimation not that long ago and kind of merged all their content in and shut that brand. So they're kind of the one-stop choice for a lot of people now. There's not that competing brand. But part of it, I guess, is they face a lot of piracy in anime, right? There are a lot of people. There are a lot of sites dedicated just to watch anime online, more so than other TV.
I learned of one of them because the new Resident Evil TV show had a scene where someone said, "Oh, so and so's got this hot new anime," and the other character said, "Oh, you can just get it on," and just like spout.
Was it a real site?
It was a real site. I didn't know it was real. I thought they made it up. But then I saw other people talking about it, saying, "Oh, I hope that place doesn't get shut down there because they've like drawn attention to it." And I'm like,
that's
"Oh,
so
it's
weird.
real."
That's so weird. I like, because it's a known thing that, like, I think anime does face that more than other TV. It has dedicated sites for it.
Yes, my Resident Evil, well, not my Resident Evil show, but the Resident Evil show that I'm supposed to care about as a Resident Evil fan has got a scene where characters are talking about getting pirated anime.
Yeah. So I do think that's what they're mainly combating with the lower price. They're trying to, take people away from piracy towards, paying, less for, but getting something out of them is better than nothing, right? But I think combined with, everything else going up in price, it makes it seem like an even more attractive proposition. If you were thinking of maybe cutting it for cost reasons because of everything else going up, here's an argument to stay, right? And
yeah,
I think it's interesting. I wonder if we'll see any other companies take that approach over the next year or so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll complain about Shudder a lot because it's still 720p and that's just laughable. And
It's 720p.
yeah, in this day and age. But I'll give it to them. They have stayed at a dirt cheap price, and because, and while they're niche in the sense that it's a horror service, I do think horror is big enough that you could get away with a little bit more than what they charge, which is basically like $5 or $6.
I'd say it's like $4.99 or something.
Yeah.
Stupid.
So honestly, like at this point, 7 or 8 would feel cheap, right? But given that everything else, now Disney included, have went above that pretty much. Like I would say to them, you know what? Get better bit rates, go to 1080 at least, and
Even if they do the Netflix thing of, look, we'll keep this model.
Oh sure,
this here as it is. But if you want the higher thing, we're gonna have to charge you more for it.
Yeah. So I know people think, oh, you're comparing the nicheness of Shudder to my sort of perception of Disney, but to me, Disney, it's not niche in the sense that obviously there's a huge audience for it, but it's niche to me in the sense that it's really very specific things that are on it for very specific groups, even
especially within the US.
Yeah, so I do think there was a bit of a comparison there. This is kind of like a couple of years ago, Stargate tried to launch a Stargate only streaming service with an original show. And I'm like, how do you expect enough people to fund that? Like, really, realistically, It's just one show. It's just too specific. So, and it'll probably still work out for them because they're Disney and because they are mammoth in size and because enough people just do care about those things. But it does make it a harder choice for people.
It does.
So
because now you can go, well, I could get 2 Crunchyroll subscriptions for the price of that.
That's not a way. What you need is Crunchyroll and then something else that is cheap. And you can say, oh, I can get these 2.
Crunchyroll and Shudder.
Yeah, you go get Crunchyroll and Shudder for the price of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I don't want Crunchyroll, admittedly.
Well, the point is you could.
Yeah. Apple's still relatively cheap though, right? Like I think that's still... I've had it for free for like 18 months, so I have no concept of what the price is on that.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly find out because I feel like you've just thrown that out there and I have no idea if that's actually
I assume
true.
Googling Apple TV Plus price will just give you the answer.
Shockingly not.
Oh my god.
They're giving me, this is how much it costs a year and this is the Apple One option. Oh, I don't want an Apple One option, just tell me. Right, okay. It's in pounds it's $4.99.
Yeah, okay, so Apple TV's
dirt cheap in comparison to... There you go. You could have Apple TV Plus and Crunchyroll, or Apple and Shudder for the price of Disney Plus.
Now, and Apple's the best video quality, I'd say, of all the streaming services. What's funny about it is that I do think they have to have a cheap price for a bit because they started with no library. They just started with their originals and nothing else, which is why they're handing out years free like candy for the first couple of years.
Yeah,
but that is significantly cheaper. I do expect it to rise at some point. I mean, I guess Apple just makes so goddamn much money like selling iPhones to people that they can just like subsidize it. But
yeah, they've got iPhones. They've got their game subscription service, right? That they've got. They have obviously the cuts that they take on all the music, films, everything they sell individually as on top of streaming.
And I buy a lot in the iTunes store, so
yeah, I buy too much.
Yeah, well, you put some movies on sale. I can't resist.
I've literally bought more than I've watched on there, but I'm not going to stop buying them.
I'm doing okay watching the stuff I buy, to be honest. I'm making a decent go of it, but yeah. So yeah, Disney Plus increasing in price in December. That's the story. We waffled on a bit, but so next up, Pennyworth.
Oh yes.
So there's actually a premiere date for season 3 in here, but I didn't put the premiere dates because that's not really what I want to talk about.
You want to talk about the title?
Yes, they've decided to retitle it for its new season on HBO Max. It's now called Pennyworth: The Origin of Batman's Butler.
Which, first off, can I just say, in my head, I was 100% convinced this show had been cancelled after season 2. Like, I thought it was dead. When I saw this news, I wasn't just surprised about the title change. I was surprised it existed because I was certain it was dead. I don't know why, but just so little faith in it, I guess.
Yeah, I saw some photos this week, actually. I don't know if it's from the previous season or if it's just photos from the upcoming season.
Is it the thing that's not Mr. Freeze?
Yeah, it's like they're in like the trenches of the war, and it's like this dude with like tubing and like this kind of he's not got the fishbowl head or anything, but he's got like like an exosuit kind of thing. Well, no, he's not really got anything covering his face though.
No, but it's like a boxy suit, right?
Yeah, it's clunky. Yeah, and I'm like, this looks stupid. What's going on? Why is this happening?
I saw it at a glance and I was like, oh, okay, they're doing some sort of take on Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
That's kind of what it looked like
before Batman's even born.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
God.
I was like, because he's got his face painted blue. I assume it's just it's Scottish, presumably the character.
I hate these prequels.
I know you do.
I hate all this prequel shite. Like Smallville is like infected the TV world with this shit, and I hate it.
Smallville looks like gold right now, doesn't
it? Slightly.
Oh, come on.
Nah, it still looks like a shit. It's just not as runny. Yeah, so there's not actually an exact date. They just say it's coming in October. So mark your calendars for the whole month of October for Pennyworth: The Rise of Batman's Butler, because people were worried that no one would know that this is related to Batman.
Yeah, give it a couple of weeks. Maybe the reason they didn't give you an exact date is because they're actually going to cancel it and not air it after all. Get a tax write-off.
That may not apply to everything.
It might not, but they'll find a way.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Apparently, Warner's are considering their options right now to what to do with the Flash, which is a very hot mess, of course, for numerous reasons.
This is also not news, but there is talk going around that I've seen on there that apparently Harley Quinn's safe, but Doom Patrol and Titans are getting cancelled. Again, no official word on that yet, so grain of salt. But obviously not too upset about Titans. But
yeah, well,
the whole situation's kind of shitty.
Speaking on that, there's actually a bit of news here. So DC's Strange Adventures series is not moving forward at HBO. I'd forgotten this was even announced, to be honest.
Yeah,
it was so
this was
long ago.
The anthology one, and we learned about its cancellation from Kevin Smith because the man cannot keep his mouth shut.
Yep. Kevin Smith revealed it on his Hollywood Babylon podcast. It'll not be moving forward. Now, given that this one wasn't even picked up yet, it was just in development, this is not that weird. This is just a normal thing that happens. But given that how much other things HBO Max is just like axing left and right, you can't help but just kind of lump it in with all that.
It's just part of the larger trend as opposed to anything specifically against this show.
Yeah. So, I wasn't particularly excited or unexcited for it. It was just, I didn't give it a chance. But
yeah, it existed, allegedly. And now it doesn't. Much like every other DC project. So
yes. So next up, the bit of interesting casting news, and I know this won't mean too much to you, but now that I've been watching Yellowjackets, it is kind of a big deal. They've cast Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under, the ginger.
Oh
yeah. She is going to be playing the adult version of one of the characters. I won't say who, just for spoilers' sake, because I think one of the interesting things about season 1 is that other than a few of the characters that you do get right away in the future, the ones you don't get to see older versions of, you're kind of like, well, did they not make it? Did they not come back from the? Because it's set over 2 timelines. It's about a plane crash that this team of football girls that crash land. They're going to nationals, and they crash somewhere in the wilderness. Okay. And then we also follow like a few of them as middle-aged adults later in life, and kind of the secrets and whatever happened there's messed them all up, and so on and so on. But this is one of the characters who like maybe wasn't around because maybe she was going to die. And there's a few of them like that where we don't really know if they exist in the modern world yet. They're kind of like keeping it secret. It's intentionally mysterious. So I mean, I don't feel spoiled seeing this.
Some people might.
Admittedly, if you have seen this show, you'll probably be able to figure out just based on like what she looks like and that that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but like it's more just for people who have not watched season 1 yet, and I don't want to spoil it, but it is interesting to to add this in, and it makes me curious why this character wasn't featured in season 1. Is it just because what she's involved in is stuff that they weren't willing to get to answer until season 2? Is it about I don't know, but had they not decided yet? Maybe was this the sort of thing where they were leaving it open themselves, just to they had the option of doing it or not?
It could be. I'll turn again, having not seen a single second of Yellowjackets.
Yes.
To bring this opinion, it could be just from a writing perspective. They have we have this amount of episodes, we have this much time. We know we've got to hit all these plot beats. We can't fit in every character right now, because they don't tie in directly right to this thing. So let's not introduce it just yet.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So no, if I think for anyone who's watched the show, it feels like fairly big news because it's like, oh shit, like she exists in the present day part of the show. So and it's a name as well, Lauren Ambrose. It was on 6 Feet Under, which is a big show, and she's just been in Servant, the Shyamalan show on Apple. She was the mother on that, which is still going. I think I think that's not stopped.
I think so,
yeah. That's been surprisingly successful, I think. So, yeah. But there you go. So that's Lauren Ambrose joining Yellowjackets as a regular in season 2. Cool. All right. Well, that takes us on to the new shows. So we got a couple comedies to look at. Stars is developing a new comedy. It's called Plan A, and it comes from writer executive producer Stephen J. Kung, who has worked on Dear White People and A Leading Man. And it'll tell the story of Los Angeles-based Asian Americans who strive for the benchmark of the American dream, an impressive job and a satisfying love life. That counts. All while navigating the cultural expectations of their parents, society, and ultimately themselves.
I don't know if that counts or not. That's so
impressive job and satisfying love. Come on, that's personal and professional. If you ever saw it.
All right.
And even if you just need it to be tipped into, if this is golf, they just have to tip it in. Just have to tap it in. That last part about parents, society, and themselves, just to make the personal part.
All right, I will satisfy your need to make me drink.
The audience loves it.
I don't mind it, to be honest.
There you go. So, sounds fine. I don't really necessarily get the comedy of it yet from that description, so I just assume that the characters will be funny. It'll be witty. I don't know.
Shenanigans ensue.
Yeah. So. Cool.
It sounds like it mentioned Dear White People. As something that they'd worked on.
Yeah, that could maybe be maybe this is going to be like an Asian equivalent to that. As perhaps
I can see you could write a description for that and it not sound like an outright comedy.
Yeah. So Plan A, Stars is developing that, so that's cool. Yeah. So yeah. Next up, so HBO has got Armando Iannucci.
Oh, I'm in.
And Sam Mendes.
I'm even more in.
Right, they're teaming up. So yeah, the Veep and Avenue 5 creator and the Oscar-winning director. I've got a pilot order for a comedy called The Franchise on HBO. The half-hour project takes a wry look at superhero movie making. It follows a hopeful crew trapped inside the dysfunctional, nonsensical, joyous hellscape of a franchise superhero movie making. If and when they finally make the day, the question they must face is this Hollywood's new dawn or cinema's last stand? Is this a dream factory or a chemical plant? That oddly sounds like it's aimed at me and my cynicism about Marvel right now.
Yes, and so I'm getting have you ever seen The Thick of It?
I have not.
Right, so Thick of It is one of Iannucci's shows. It's essentially the precursor to Veep, except it's in the British system, and it's very much this cynical behind the scenes look at the politicians they're all just morons really, and this is all there's all just this scrambling around trying to hit deadlines and just making stuff up. It sounds like taking that but throwing it into superhero movie production, and yeah, I'm there for it.
I'm intrigued. I will say that. Having not seen any of Iannucci's stuff, I have heard very good things about Veep. It's probably the one that I'll try at some point. But
The thick of it's only like less than 20 episodes.
okay. But yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I thought that one would tickle your fancy.
Oh yeah.
Here's something that really tickles my fancy.
What now?
We're on the dramas. Vince Gilligan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll pay attention.
So yeah, Better Call Saul is obviously ending, and Vince Gilligan's got his next thing kind of shaping up. He's working on his next project. And it's an original idea. It's not connected to Breaking Bad or anything like that. In fact, these headlines are kind of saying that it's going to be a bit closer to what he did with X-Files. Although, I'll read the exact thing here just to make this so there's no mince words here. So, word is the new show harkens back to Gilligan's tenure on the X-Files, but don't expect a sci-fi drama. When he was a writer, producer on the X-Files, Gilligan was known for focusing more on the human condition in his episodes, which is something he is said to also be doing in this new series, exploring similar themes of bending reality while holding a mirror to humanity. I mean, that still sounds like a sci-fi drama, but I get what they're saying. It's not a creature of the week or something like that.
I mean, almost like Black Mirror sort of vibes.
Yeah. Described as a blended, grounded genre drama. That genre being sci-fi.
Yeah.
I still think it's weird that they say it's not a sci-fi, but it does sound like it still is a sci-fi show. It's just they're just making
it's soft sci-fi.
It's not. They're trying to make it clear it's not the X-Files, I guess, because they just said he's going back to what he did in the X-Files, but it's not X-Files.
It's not aliens though. Don't worry about it. It's not aliens. It's not crazy sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's believable sci-fi.
Yeah. So it also says the new series is also being compared to the Twilight Zone, which I don't know if that actually means it's going to be an anthology, but maybe just more, like you said with Black Mirror, kind of the tone and the messaging that it often has in its episodes.
Yeah. Obviously, Black Mirror is pretty bleak in its messaging, more so than Twilight Zone. Not the Twilight Zone never is bleak, but you know.
That could bounce around to whatever it felt like. It is said to be set in our world while putting a tweak on it, focusing on people and exploring the human condition in an unexpected, surprising way. So obviously the cards are being kept close to the chest here, but it's using a few buzzwords to get you intrigued. So yeah, I'm expecting relatively grounded sci-fi that lets him do whatever he wants to with this.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's been following our Better Call Saul reviews knows that the character drama is by far our favorite.
Yes,
part of the show.
Absolutely. Yes.
So taking that and applying to, quote unquote, the human condition to extrapolate out from that definitely plays to what I think of as Gilligan's strengths.
Yeah, the last little thing it says here is thought-provoking but not a morality tale. The new show is expected to carry the signature Gilligan tone that infuses drama with humor. So,
okay.
So still a Vince Gilligan show.
Shocking.
I mean,
Vince Gilligan making a show that feels like a Vince Gilligan show. Breaking news.
Obviously, this is a must do.
Yeah. Obviously.
Like it just Vince Gilligan. It's Vince Gilligan and what's his face for Mr. Robot, Sam Esmail. Those get carte blanche.
Whatever they put out, it's like, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Oh, and David Lynch, I suppose, at this point as well. But he's not doing a lot.
Fun to see put out TV these days.
But if he ever does put a season of any TV out, I'm like it's happening.
Yeah.
It's absolutely happening. So, no. Exciting stuff. Obviously, this would be at least a year away. If anything, I would say it's more likely to be 2024 before we actually see it. But
yeah, it's going to be late 23 to mid 24, realistically.
Yeah. But exciting stuff all the same.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Was there a network for this, like a home?
No, I don't believe so. I'll just have a quick scan to see if I missed anything, but I don't think so. I
mean, sometimes I just forget. Obviously, by the end of the article, I forget.
It comes from Sony Pictures TV, but no home, so it's just the production.
Okay.
There's no network or anything attached.
Definitely a good while away yet. Then
I suspect that they will be jumping at the chance to get their hands on the new Gilligan show.
Yes, there will be a bidding war.
Absolutely,
and understandably so, because who wouldn't want to be able to market it as, hey, this is the man's follow-up to the Breaking Bad world. combine that with the marketing of, we're talking about, Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, of, those things that people enjoy. Sounds easily marketable for anyone, really.
Oh yeah, this could be it could be Netflix, although I hope not because they cancel everything. But it could be Apple, it could be HBO, it could just be AMC again. I'm sure they'd love to keep doing stuff with them. It could be FX. It could be any of them, really.
Anywhere basic cable and up. This fits fine.
Yeah. And I would just hope for not Netflix because they have a tendency to cancel things, and just because their video quality is kind of worse than everyone else's. So just on a raw technical sense, I'd rather it be somewhere else. But hey, cool. All right, next up, Tatiana Maslany, who of course is about to be in She-Hulk, so obviously getting some big work. Known mainly for Orphan Black, is going to star and executive produce in an upcoming series called Invitation to a Bonfire, based on a novel by Adrian Kelt of the same name. So this is for AMC networks specifically, which I think means that it's not necessarily nailed down which of their networks it'll be on, because they technically have a couple of smaller ones, but given that it's her, it's probably going to just be AMC or Plus. Yeah. So yeah, and that's where Orphan Black aired, but obviously that was like a co-production with BBC America or something like that, if I remember right. So yeah, she's going to portray the character of Vera Orlov, who is more than Leo's wife. She is his editor and has everything. Vera is inspired by Vera Nabokov. Yeah, so Invitation to a Bonfire is a psychological thriller set in the 1930s at an all-girls boarding school in New Jersey, inspired by Vladimir and Vera Nabokov's codependent marriage. The series follows Zoya, a young Russian immigrant and groundskeeper who is drawn into a lethal love triangle with the school's newest faculty member, an enigmatic novelist, Leo, and his bewitching wife, played by Maslany. So
this sounds extremely trashy.
It doesn't sound like my sort of thing, I have to admit.
No. Like, it says psychological thriller, but it sounds very trashy, which it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like,
I mean, it could sound trashy on paper, but it could also, like, once you actually see it, if this is treated with the right touch, it could actually be a very well done series. But it's just,
or maybe the book is actually just really trashy, and that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't think it actually says here limited series. No, actually, it's even more specific. It says 6-episode first season. So it's not a limited series. I was going to maybe jump to and assume that it was before I saw that, because it's a book, and often that just means you adapt the book and you're done. But obviously that's not always the case. Handmaid's Tales went way past the first book. So
if only they hadn't.
Interesting stuff. What's interesting is I actually saw the Handmaid's Tale movie a couple of weeks ago.
How was it?
It was really weird, actually. Like, because season 1 of the show is better. Because season 1 of Handmaid's Tale, which adapts the book, is fantastic. And it's really interesting watch them condense that entire season into a 2-hour movie. And how certain characters come off as like less serious or more serious, and but a lot of that, but it is the same story. There's a lot of the same things and beats and stuff you recognize.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you do a review on it, or did you just watch it?
No review. No, I just watched it. It was something I did on stream. I'll probably talk about it on a Meltdown, which is the new Patreon exclusive show that me and Tara do. We talk about what movies we've been watching the last month, which is coming next week to Patreon. But
I did happen to see earlier you made Tara watch God Told Me To, and I almost want to watch that review just to see how wild she thought it was, because oh boy, that movie.
Well, what's funny you say that is that's not a new review. That's just a port of an old one from the TV channel. So that was a while ago. But what's interesting about that is the reason why we did that when we did it is because it popped up on Criterion's channel, and she mentioned it to me, and I got excited. I was like, oh, yes, God told me to. God told me to. Yes. And we effectively built like a 70s month out of it. It's like, we'll do 70s movies. We'll do God told me to.
I get excited. Anytime someone was like, oh, what's this movie? Like, go watch it, go. It's so exciting. Just want to see people's reaction to it.
She responded positively. That's all I'll say.
As you should. Positively, but but baffled.
She's actually very big fan, because she watches a lot of like riff tracks and Mystery Science Theater movies. She's a very big fan of an actor who pops up in a very prominent role later on in the movie. And it made it even funnier. It made who this character was even funnier.
I suspect I know who you're talking about.
I don't want to spoil anything.
No. I wouldn't want to spoil anything about that movie for anyone, except you should watch it, people. It's wild.
It takes some left turns and it commits every single time to its new direction. That's all you need to know. But yeah, that was a nice natural plug for the ace out of the way. So over on Mail Fuzz Movies, you can go check that out. So yeah, there you go. That's Invitation to a Bonfire, is the Tatiana Maslany show. Next up, Apple TV Plus is doing a crime series. It's not quite ordered it yet, but it's nearing a series order for Sinking Spring, starring Brian Tyree Henry, who's known for Atlanta. I've seen him on at least a couple of movies by this point. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what they were, but I've seen him in some things. But it's going to be written by Peter Craig, who is fresh from Top Gun Maverick. You got a story by credit on that. So he's probably feeling quite... I don't know how much of a residual he gets from it. Probably not any.
I believe that comes to home video at the end of this month, and I'm looking forward to watching it because it looks fun.
It's got a lot of buzz. I'm also curious to watch it, and I say that as someone who thought the first movie was fine, and I'm someone who likes a lot of Tony Scott movies. And I
rewatched it recently, and I had a blast with it. Like, it's not... I don't think it's necessarily like a great movie, but it looks great visually, obviously.
Yeah.
It's fun.
See, he did another movie with Tony Scott called Days of Thunder a couple of years later, which is basically the same story but with race cars instead of planes, and I actually think it's slightly better. I had more fun with it.
I picked it up on Apple recently when it was on sale.
Because Val Kilmer's replaced by Michael Rooker, and I don't know who did the score for Top Gun, and I'm not saying the score on Top Gun's bad, but Hans Zimmer does the score in Days of Thunder.
Top Gun, obviously, the score is overshadowed by the source music.
Oh yeah, it's all the songs, yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, okay, that's a weird time to go on. And this dude also co-wrote the Batman. He's having a lot of success this year. Look at Peter Craig's having the year of his life.
Yeah, rolling in it.
Two of the most well received movies of the year. And now he's got a new show coming.
And correct me wrong, two of the most profitable movies of the year as well in terms of box office. Those residuals must be stacking up nicely.
Yeah, this is his first TV outing. And Ridley Scott is directing.
Okay.
That's the sort of cred you get from doing success like that. You get Ridley Scott to direct your show. So yeah, which is obviously Ridley Scott did Raised by Wolves, which did get cancelled after a couple of seasons. He didn't do the whole thing, obviously. He did the first 3 episodes or something. But
standard TV.
Yeah, but he's at least doing the first few of this. You would presume. So it's based on the book by Dennis Tafoya, and it's called Dope Thief. Just Dope Thief. Sorry, I thought it was colon there, Sinking Spring, but it's not. It's just separation. Sinking Spring follows longtime Philly friends and delinquents who pose as DEA agents to rob an unknown house in the countryside, only to have their small-time grift become a life and death enterprise as they unwittingly reveal and unravel the biggest hidden narcotics corridor on the eastern seaboard. Do you know what's so funny about this? Is that this topic in general isn't something I'm inherently interested about unless it's got, prestige, level quality thrown at it. But bizarrely, I actually do like the sound of them doing this small time robbery because they're posing as DAs. Obviously, it gives you a sort of sense that they're maybe a bit playful.
Depth.
Yeah, they're a bit out of their depth, a bit playful, and they end up uncovering this larger thing that gets them into a lot of trouble with a lot of bad people. I can see this being entertaining, or potentially very tense. There was a movie probably about 10 years ago now. Brad Pitt was in it, and it was about these two idiots that robbed it was a poker game with a bunch of mob bosses or something like that in the back of this place, and these 2 or 3 guys, Scott McNeary was one of the guys who robbed it, but he they go in and they rob all these dangerous people, and then the rest of the movie is Brad Pitt hunting them down on behalf of these people. And it was a very stylistic movie that I enjoyed in the theater. I don't know if it would necessarily hold up, but I remember it being well directed at the time. And it's giving me sort of vibes of that, but maybe a bit more lighthearted because maybe they're more goofy.
It's interesting because this like crime drama is not what I would necessarily associate Ridley Scott with.
That's also true, yeah. Maybe
it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe he flexing some of those muscles because obviously he has his ups and downs. But when he's on fire, he's a damn good director still.
Oh, when you give him a good script, he will go off and make gold. Like, he knows how to shoot a movie. There's no denying that. But he doesn't always have a good script. And when he doesn't, you get like Alien Covenant. You get
Gods of Egypt.
I didn't see that one, but I'll take your word for it.
I saw that in the cinema. In my defense, I had free tickets.
You're such a mark.
I had a free ticket. They went, "Do you want to go?"
Yeah.
I was in uni. They went, "Do you want to go tonight? It's free." I went, "Sure, why not?"
Also, it casually mentions here that Peter Craig is working with Ridley Scott as well on another project, not a TV project, but he's currently working with him on Gladiator 2.
Oh, man. This guy's going to be working on everything in the next 5 years, apparently.
It almost feels like Scott's doing this as like a nice little favor. He's like, "Oh, you write my big next movie for me, and I'll come in and do your pilot for your TV show as a thank you."
It almost is like, hey, I'll come and I'll give you a little boost essentially because obviously this show could be successful without Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
it probably would be, assuming the quality of the script's there and they got some other reasonable, solid TV directors, which is what they'll probably do for the rest of the show anyway. But you can throw Ridley Scott's name on it and marketing, and suddenly you've got a big boost, right? That's the reality of it. It makes it more attractive for marketing, and people will watch it because of his name.
Yeah. And then Brian Tyree Henry, who I do think fits the maybe slightly out of his depth, assuming he's playing one of the leads who is going to...
Which is a reasonable assumption. Yeah,
given that I assume they're the main characters and he's been announced with the announcement. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I think there might be something here. There might be something here that I quite like, even though the subject isn't necessarily something I usually gravitate towards. There's just a right concoction of elements there that I can see some potential.
I agree, and I think you said this was on Apple, and that this seems like a perfectly reasonable thing for Apple to have on their service. That kind of fits.
Yeah, prestige, kind of crime, like sort of thriller, I guess, if you want to call it that. Maybe with I don't know if there'll be humor there. There might be a bit of humor because they're out of their depth, or it might treat it like, no, this is scary for them now because they've stumbled into how
I suspect more the latter. At least once they realize what's going on. But yeah, I can see this on Apple.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That is Sinking Spring. It's a better title than Dope Thief, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. So there you go. That is that. Next up, Cachette Studios, who I've never heard of, but they've acquired the TV rights to adapt Caitlin Munro Howe's debut novel, The Awoken, which is publishing this week. I mean, sometimes that's not even that exciting because sometimes it's like not publishing for another year. But
hey, you can probably go and pick this book up right now by the time you're listening to this.
Probably. So the US studio arm of Israel's Cachette International. So that's what the company is.
That's why we've not heard of it. Yeah.
Are going to turn the book, which Insecure star Issa Rae is called Phenomenal. That's a really weird name drop. That's just like the blurb you put on the back of the book. You put Phenomenal, like dash.
Yeah.
Issa Rae. Anyway, so yes, The Awoken is billed as a high-stakes, adrenaline-fueled romantic story about a chilling, all-too-plausible future in which a woman with terminal cancer undergoes cryogenic preservation as her only hope for a second chance, leaving behind the love of her life. When she wakes up a century later, she discovers a world where her very life is now a crime. Sure, that actually turned into an interesting sci-fi by the end of that description.
It did, because while you were looking at reading that, I was kind of looking it up on Amazon, just like, oh, hey, I like new books, and obviously they've got like a slightly longer blurb on there, and parts of it made me go, oh, this sounds really just generic. Like, oh, it's a gripping, action-packed story full of plot twists and high emotion. That
sentence makes me sleep because it just fluff.
But then it talks about how, okay, she's woke up, scientists have discovered how to bring back the dead from preservation, but there's a philosophical battle over it, and those are resurrected, who are called the Awoken, have been declared illegal and are to be shot on sight. So she's like a fugitive in this world.
Yeah, so she's like instantly in danger constantly.
Yeah. it sounds like
That actually
again
could be a good show.
quality of the writing and the rest of the plot and direction all obviously impact that, but on premise alone, that's not bad.
It could also be like I could see it being like a really cheap. I mean, obviously it's not on this network, but like it could be like a really cheesy like NBC or ABC show as well.
Yes, yeah,
like, it could really be either of those extremes. So interesting stuff though. That is the Awoken. So, a strong premise actually. All right, next up, Netflix is developing Stronger, which is they're listed as a working title, which probably for the better because it's a little bit simple and generic. Yeah, it's a female empowerment bodybuilding drama series starring and executive produced by Insecure standout Yvonne Orji. Orji is ORJI.
It's probably a hard G. Orgy.
Oh, sorry, did I say G? J, not G, sorry. ORG. So, ORJI. I can't say it. For some reason, every time I try to say the spelling, I say the wrong thing. ORJI.
Yeah.
It's just RJ?
Saying that. Yeah.
I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt and try and skew it away from the word that obviously everyone means something else with, but okay. Yeah, Yvonne Orji. Yeah. That's a tough upbringing in school, I'm not going to lie, with the name Orji.
That's a rough one.
So, yeah. Apparently there's been no official comment, but Stronger is believed to follow Tony Winslow, played by Orji, a single mum who feels unseen and unimportant. She becomes obsessed with bodybuilding as she explores the surprisingly tenuous line separating self-empowerment from self-destruction, and will undergo not only physical transformation but also an emotional one.
Shocking. She has a character arc.
Pretty much. I love how it's like there's no official word, but here's what the premise is. I'm like,
here's the show.
Yeah. Well, how did you get this from then?
and that was like written like a log line for a TV show, not just here's a vague idea. That was PR speak.
Oddly specific. I'm not actually trying to add more drinking rules to you, and I'm not saying you should do it for this one, but I do almost wonder if physical and emotional in the same line of professional and personal has a...
Have we ever had that before?
I don't know. I feel like it feels familiar, but maybe it's just because it's so similar to the bullshit that it's clicking with me.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't technically break any of the rules that we've established, but that still felt super PR fluff.
It did. It had that feeling, like even that there, physical and emotional. I was like, right, okay, so she has a character arc.
Yeah,
that's what you told me there, but in fluff. So it definitely had that feel to the way it was written, which is why, that was clearly given to them by someone at Netflix.
Yeah. So, not feeling it myself, but I mean,
no.
Who's to say once it's actually all together? Apple TV Plus has ordered a 6-episode series as dramedy called Land of Women, inspired by Sandra Bernada's best-selling novel from executive producer and star Eva Longoria. So, okay. Created and written by Ramon Campos, who's worked on Grand Hotel and Velvet. I think Grand Hotel, I assume that's maybe Grand Hotel and they've just left off the D. Because I feel like there was a show called Grand Hotel that Longoria was involved with, which is maybe why I'm assuming that it's that.
I don't remember it, but
I'm sure she was involved in a show called Grand Hotel, which is why I'm thinking they've just typoed the name. But I mean, if I'm right, if there's another show called Grand Hotel somewhere, then that's fair enough. But
there was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was one season, and she was the lead character.
There you go. So I assume that's just what it's meant to be. And also along with Gemma R. and Nira from Now and Then and Velvet as well. Land of the Women tells the story of Gala, played by Longoria, a New York empty nester forced to flee her home after her husband implicates the family in financial improprieties. Sorry. I didn't think about that. It's because there's like two sections in the. First of all, it's not a word that comes up often. And secondly,
sometimes I'd swear you're the one that sat here drinking, not me.
But it's also because there's like it's like it repeats in the middle because there's it's got the pr part twice. So my eyes just gloss over the second one and just go for the ending. Yeah. Anyway,
you need reading comprehension lessons.
Joining her on her journey are her aging mother Julia and her college-aged daughter.
So it's a 3-generation story, is what you're saying.
They're not pointing it out, but yes, it's a 3-generation story.
Yeah.
Multi-generational story. Journey. Experience.
Yes. What a surprise. Definitely never have any of those, do we?
Yes. Carmen Mara is going to play the grandmother character as well. Throw that in there. So, yeah. Oh, there's actually even more. There's a second part of this. The 3 women escape the criminals her now vanished husband has indebted to by moving to the same charming wine town in northern Spain that Gala's mother fled to 50 years ago.
Joe, I was thinking the 3 generations. Was that a rule? I wasn't sure. And then I was like, no, I think it was the hometown and moving in with the parents was the thing. And then they threw it in.
Vowing to never return, yeah. Starting over with new identities proves complicated while living in a small town where secrets tend to unravel quite easily. So. I can't believe we got. I just noticed there was a second half to that and it had the going to the hometown thing. Oh, that's funny.
I love these shitty descriptions.
I'm not saying you need to drink for this, but I would also argue that it kind of implies the vowing to never return and then secrets. It kind of sounds like, the personal secret thing as well.
Yeah. But you see, it was vague about the secrets and who they belong to, which is why.
No, that's true. But
I do agree. It was definitely.
It's touching on it. It's just.
Yeah, it was close.
All right. Next up, IDW Entertainment, which we know that likes to develop things, even though they had some shaky stuff with Winona Earp, where it kind of like they had to like delay a season and then like because the money was like drying up and stuff. But they've got 5 shows in development with various places.
Well, one of them's got to be worth watching. Maybe.
So the first one is called Dark Spaces Wildfire, and this is at Universal Cable Productions. It's a thriller series written by Scott Snyder. Obviously not the show, the comic that's based on it. Just make that clear.
I mean, you never know.
With art by because these. I mean, I'm pretty sure these are all based in comics. Obviously.
I mean, that would stand to reason with IDW being a comics publisher.
Do you know what? I should say that because not everyone listening to this is necessarily into comics and knows that. So I should have probably prefaced that. But yeah, these are all going to be based on comics. So Dark Spaces Wildfire is written by Scott Snyder, who I mean, we know who he is, but Batman, American Vampire, bunch of stuff.
And who'd you say was on art?
Art by Hayden Sherman.
I would say I respect. I'm going to say whatever site you're reading this from, Deadline, for including the artist, but I assume that's more just coming from IDW giving them the press release.
Possibly.
That in there.
But he worked on The Few and Wasted Space, which I've never heard of, but fair enough. There it is. It follows a group of female inmate firefighters deep on the smoldering California hills, where their desperate heist of a burning mansion will lead them to the score of a lifetime or a deadly trap. This is interesting. Is this like a fire they've started intentionally, or is it like they've just like seen an opportunity because this mansion's burning? Oh, we can steal stuff from this mansion while it's on fire.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a very finite sounding premise for a TV show. That doesn't explicitly say limited series.
Assuming it leads to like the rich people are evil and come after them, or whatever. Yeah. That's it. It does mention it's the smoldering California hills, so maybe it's the idea that there's a forest fire going towards like certain place, and like, oh wait a minute, this is going to go here. And they can so maybe they've got a little bit of time to plan their little heist. Yeah. That's an interesting premise. I mean, I like Scott Snyder as a comic book writer typically, but so that's cool. Next one up is A Delicacy, which is at Warner Brothers TV, which I've not really heard referred to like that in a long time. So I don't know, like.
Technically it's the umbrella production company.
Yeah, I guess because I feel like we hear Universal Cable Productions a lot to mean shows that are getting made that will go to typically either Sci-Fi or USA or whatever. But I feel like obviously WTV, like probably a lot of their shows go to HBO or go to whatever else they own.
In CW.
They do currently, but probably
probably not for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So anyway, Delicacy is a graphic novel from James Albin, who did A Shining Beacon. There's no artist listed, so I assume he probably just did both writing and art. It's about a rare and delicious fungi that spell trouble for an ambitious restaurateur. Tulip, and his brother Rowan have left the simple comforts of their remote Scottish island. Hey! Cheers, Scotland. Something. And with a plan to grow succulent organic vegetables on an idyllic market garden, and to open a restaurant serving these wholesome culinary delights in the busy sprawl of London. The world of fine dining seems impossibly competitive until they discover a deliriously scrumptious new species of mushroom. It's about vague to where it's going, but
yeah, I'm kind of into it though. Like, it sounds just quirky enough to be interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I assume these mushrooms have some sort of weird new effect, you know, as opposed to just being like a, shrooms. Like, it's something weird and wacky that'll make the restaurant kind of odd or something. But yeah. This next one's got a very short description, but Rivers, which is directly tied to HBO Max, is created by Dan Berry and David Gaffney. Doesn't necessarily list anything from a comic book, so maybe this one isn't based on a comic book. Is about 3 ordinary weirdos and 1 recurring dream. That's it.
It's a good sentence though. If you're doing it in one sentence.
Yeah, if you're only doing one, it is at least a little intriguing. But yeah.
I am interested in hearing more about that one, so I'll give them credit.
Next up is Ballad for Sophie, which is Universal International Studios, as opposed to Universal Cable Productions. So, but this is by Portuguese musician Felipe Melo and artist Juan Cavia. Maybe butchered those names a little bit, so apologies if I did. Maybe the reason why it says International Studios because it's going to be an international production. Is a sweeping tale about what happens when a young journalist prompts a reclusive musical superstar to finally break his silence.
Okay. It's vague, but maybe interesting.
Yeah. And the 5th one is Brutal Nature, which is Anima Studios, created by Luciano Saracino, or maybe Saracino, perhaps, or maybe even Saracino, depending.
I'd have gone with the first one that you said as well. So
yeah. And Ariel Olivetta is about a collection of masks that transforms a young man into innumerable beasts and monsters. Using this power, he embarks on a battle that pits the indigenous Mayan people against the encroaching Spanish Empire. But can one man hope to beat back the massive forces of the conquering Spaniards? Okay,
so it's a period piece with powers, this person has.
Yeah, either Animal Man or maybe more Beast Boy if he's actually transforming.
I think closer to Beast Boy is what I got the sound of that, but it sounded more like they split into multiple animals at the same time, almost. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if I got. I mean, maybe that is what it means. I just thought it meant he could turn into different ones.
It could well be, yeah.
Rather than he can turn into a lot at the same time. But there you go. So that's 5 shows in the works. As like how many of these see the light of day and actually make it to show is up for debate. We'll see. But
I think it's reasonable to assume one of them probably will.
To be fair to them, I don't think any of them just sounded bad. I think they all had their own little spin in some way. Even if I don't necessarily am appealed to all of them, I don't think any of them just sounded like generic PR speak that didn't have anything.
No, they all had unique premises. Even the ones that were only like a sentence, it was something that gave you a tone, a feeling, just something to set it apart from, the fluff that we often get.
And that takes us on to our final story, which is a series order at ABC. ABC's picked up a pilot for Will Trent, which is a working title. This is for a mid-season launch, coming early next year, obviously. So it was an early frontrunner at ABC for what they're calling the second cycle, which is the mid-season, potential new shows. And it feels like more than ever, like there's a lot of shows that start in that time frame and just get the 13 episodes or whatever, rather than doing the longer.
It's not seen as this taboo kind of that's a bad show if it doesn't get that back 9 anymore. That was
which
traditional.
Is so weird because so many good shows, even in the 90s, started mid-season with a shorter season. The hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer started mid-season. and went on to be a great success. I mean, it went on to be a hit television show, you may say.
One might say that, yes.
So, yeah. This says here, interestingly, there was a small hiccup in the final stretch of its sort of like run up to like being ordered, which the writer here saying heard was over the nature of storytelling, but the pilot remained on track for pickup. It's a bit vague. I don't know what that
nature of storytelling. That sounds potentially interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, based on Karine Slaughter's best-selling Will Trent series. The series stars Rodriguez.
Just every time it says that, I just want to say, Will Trent what?
That's very good. Ramon Rodriguez is the star, as Will Trent. And yes, I lost my place there because you made me scroll up. All right, here we go.
I'm sorry.
It's Special Agent Will Trent of the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, the GBI. The GBI.
Everyone's got to have a BI these days.
I love how it's just one letter up though from FBI.
Yeah. Oh, it was a typo on the keyboard.
Do we have other states that we can get the whole alphabet out of?
No.
CBI is California. There you go. That's one.
A is Arizona.
Oh, there you go. There you go. B.
I don't know enough of the states off the top of my head.
Baltimore's a city, right? That's not a state.
Yeah, I did the same with Buffalo.
I don't know if there is a B state. But, damn it.
Yeah. We don't have all 50 states memorized.
No, off the top of my head, I'm afraid now. Anyway, so yes, he's a special agent who was abandoned at birth and endured a harsh coming of age in Atlanta's overwhelmed foster care system, but now determined to use his unique point of view to make sure no one is abandoned like he was. Will Trent has the highest clearance rate in the GBI.
Oh, this sounds so generic. I like how they made him sound like Batman.
Yeah.
Like, no one else has to go through what I went through.
They didn't fall into any of the traps that we've come to expect, but it gave us GBI, which is just a unique bit of gold.
It sounds like a disease. Just throwing that out there. I'm sorry, Georgians. What do you want me to say?
Oh dear. All right. There you go. That's this week's TV news. Hopefully you enjoyed that, folks. There
was some good shows earlier, at least.
There was, yeah. New Vince Gilligan stuff on the way, so that's always exciting.
New Iannucci one.
Yeah, there's good stuff coming. So let us know what you thought of those stories in the comments down below. And of course, like I said earlier, support the show by liking, subscribing, ding the bell for notifications. You can obviously support us financially with the super thanks button, or more permanently over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. But including this show most weeks a day early. This goes up on Saturdays for patrons if we get the chance to record it by then. Which, since we started doing that, there's only been 1 week that we didn't do it, where we had to record on the Saturday and it went out just on Sunday for everyone. But most weeks it goes up the day early for patrons. But we figure if we can't record till Saturday, that the patrons would rather they still get an episode for the week rather than we not do one just because we can't have it up early on Patreon.
Yeah.
So
it is most weeks that we get here, and I think as well, just so we've actually been getting these out most weeks. That's pretty good of us.
We have. I think we've only missed 1 week since we came back to TV news.
That's been months, right? I think time has no meaning anymore.
I think this is episode 16 of.
That's months.
I agree. Yes,
like 4 of them.
I'm giving you like concrete, data.
Yeah.
Maybe 16 or 17. It's about there.
Let's still give or take 4 months.
But yeah, so there you go. That is the show. That is Almost Cancelled TV News Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it and enjoyed the laughs along the way. And Car's about to wow everyone with his last minute joke. But thank you once again for watching.
You just said that, and I was thinking the real friends of the jokes we had along the way.
So Hope you enjoyed the show. Keep watching TV. Have you got Eddie Vanilla?
Nah, you just had it. I wasted it before.